Wait. Do you hear that? Do you hear it? No? Exactly right.
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Peter Bukowski, and I cover the Packers for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find podcasts, you will find Locked On Packers, the #1 Packers podcast on the internet, and the show for fans who know what happened. They want to know why and how. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Download the Game Time app today. Create an account and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. It is quiet in Green Bay. And not because it's Green Bay. Well, not just because it's Green Bay. And not just because it's early June. We have sat here on this show over the last few years in early June and had plenty to talk about. Plenty of question marks, of drama to parse for a lot of different reasons, with major question marks about how things are going to look, how players are going to react. The future of the Green Bay Packers was in the balance. But there are no quarterback questions right now. It's just a matter of time before this contract is going to get done. Brian Gutekunst spoke on a radio interview yesterday and talked about how they just want to get this done by training camp. It benefits everyone to get it done. It's going to get done. They're going to sign Jordan Love. Matt LaFleur is as safe maybe as he's been as the head coach of the Green Bay Packers. Brian Gutekunst is on a heater of a draft run. This is an incredibly young, talented team. I wrote about this yesterday at The Leap. Like, the way you have to change your team building for a team like this, there's no analog. There's no example where you can point to and say, oh, well, that team did it this way because, well, that team had guys who were over 30 that they had to deal with. They had big-time superstar contracts that they were already dealing with when they paid their quarterback. The Packers are really not doing that. There isn't really anything to worry about right now. Even if the Jeff Hafley experience doesn't go, like, he doesn't come in and become the next DeMeco Ryans, Robert Saleh, he's still probably going to be an upgrade over Joe Barry. Not a high bar. And even if he's not, in 2 years, they'll move on and try it all again. And we know that even in a circumstance where things are not perfect defensively, you can be successful. The Packers have proven that. And by the way, the 49ers last year went to a Super Bowl with a defensive coordinator who did not last through the offseason. Now, because they didn't win. But if the Packers go to a Super Bowl and the defense is just only marginally better and we're not like writing songs about Jeff Hafley, that's fine given the trajectory of this team. They're not in the same position as the 49ers where they're going, we got to do this now. Like, we've had all these shots. There's not that same pressure on the Packers. Brandon Ayuk is agitating for a contract. They might have to trade Deebo Samuel. They're going to have to pay Brock Purdy, a game manager, a bus passenger, not a bus driver, $50+ million in a year. They had to move on from Eric Armstead. There's some expensive players, critical players who are hurt. Guys like Dre Greenlaw, probably not going to play at least until Halloween and maybe not till later. It's getting older. George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey, who just got paid, Trent Williams. These guys are getting older. The Packers, they don't have that problem right now. They don't have a head coach who took his team to a Super Bowl 2 years ago and is now firmly on the hot seat, like the Philadelphia Eagles. They don't have the same super duper star talent as the Dallas Cowboys, but they also don't have the same drama. The future of Mike McCarthy, the future of Dak Prescott, the future of CeeDee Lamb, the future of Micah Parsons. Where are those guys going? How long is Matthew Stafford going to play? How are they going to replace Aaron Donald? What is the future of Sean McVay? How long before he burns out? Can you catch the 49ers? Can you beat Kyle Shanahan? The Packers aren't dealing with those questions. We didn't have to talk about the NFC South. That division is a disaster. We don't yet have to talk about the Chicago Bears, the Minnesota Vikings. And now you have the Detroit Lions. They don't have really much drama that they're worried about at the moment, but they did just pay Jared Goff. Again, speaking of bus passengers. And there is now expectations on them in ways that there still aren't for the Packers. This Packers team, even though I think this Packers team is better, I think this Packers team will finish ahead of the Lions in the NFC North. I think the Packers will win the NFC North. But they don't have the expectations of the Detroit Lions. A team that, if they don't win the Super Bowl this year, and even if they do, are probably going to lose Ben Johnson. Now, if they win the Super Bowl, who cares, right? You got your chip, especially for a franchise like the Detroit Lions. But that puts even more pressure on this season. Aaron Glenn is going to continue to get head coaching opportunities. Ben Johnson is going to, if they have another great season, get head coaching opportunities. You better go win that Super Bowl. And then we're going to find out how good Dan Campbell is as a coach. Well, there's no worrying about that with the Packers. They have Matt LaFleur. We know his impact on this offense. We know his schematic prowess. We know his ability to handle culture and changing teams and different versions of teams and the young players and the veteran players. He's managed it all. And he hasn't even been the head coach for that long, but he's seen so many different iterations, so many different versions of this team. The Packers are a Super Bowl contender, the rare Super Bowl contender, flying under the radar, drama-free. And if you don't think OTAs matter, the vibes matter, Jordan Love talked about it, said this is the closest group he's been around in his time in Green Bay. That the energy in the building, the juice, is just a different level. And of course it is. This is a young, hungry group. They're all eager to prove themselves. They're all fighting for spots, but they're also similar ages. A lot of them grew up playing together. The football world is not very big. Like, these guys know each other. Anytime you hear someone get drafted, they're like, oh yeah, I know such and such a player. We were in this class. Or like the Packers signed Xavier McKinney, and you hear three players say, oh, I work out in the offseason with him, or my agent, and this. It's just like, everyone knows everyone. But when you can be the same age, when you can go through the same wars together, the same battles, the scars that you have, it's like almost a trauma bond to come out and to do it with guys your age. It's just different. And so, yes, this is a sleepy time in the NFL calendar. OTAs, you're not really going to learn that much at OTAs. But that's good. You want a sleepy time because go listen to Locked On Cowboys. They got like real stuff to talk about, things to worry about. Locked On Eagles, Locked On 49ers, Locked On Rams, Locked On Seahawks, Locked On Bears. They're wondering if they're going to have to just cancel the franchise if Caleb Williams isn't an all-star. Just it's going to be great drama no matter what, but it's drama. The Packers don't have that. And there is one position where you in particular want no drama, and that is at the kicker position. Anders Carlson right now I said we can't learn much from OTAs. That's true. But right now, he is responding to the kicker competition. We're going to talk about that next on Locked On Packers. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at Game Time with killer last minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seats, and the lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets for the NBA, for baseball, for hockey. If you still have a chance to do that, the NFL is coming up. And so why not? Plus concerts, comedy, theater, and more. Game Time, they've got it all. They've got it all. Last minute tickets, flash deals, zone deals. It's easy to find and buy tickets for every kind of event in your area. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, the lowest price guaranteed. Anders Carlson just might reward the Packers for their patience. But are you getting impatient with Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Probably about Caitlin Clark lately. Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. It is just training camp. But one of the things we talked about last year with Anders Carlson is he was part of the investment, but not just the investment in youth, the going out of your way to say, we're going to ride with this group. All young pass catchers. The Packers last year didn't even really bring in competition for Anders Carlson. Even late in the season when he was having this dreadful rookie season and they had a chance to make the playoffs, they were like, nah, we're good. And it cost them in the postseason. He missed a kick. The Packers would have had a chance to go down, kick a field goal to win the game rather than needing a touchdown to win the game. It is a different game if he makes a kick that more than 50% of the time NFL kickers are expected to make. But they believed in him, and they said over and over and over they believed in him. And this worked out for Mike McCarthy with Mason Crosby, who had his struggles early in his career, and ultimately the Packers said, Mike McCarthy in particular, stuck his neck out for Mason Crosby, and it worked. If you're going to make the case for Anders, it's not a difficult one to make because the last kicker in Green Bay just did that thing. He just did it. Now, he just did it right 15 years ago. But then he was the kicker in Green Bay for 15 years. Because he did it. Because he overcame early inconsistencies. But it's not just a thing that happened in Green Bay, because how much can Anders Carlson really benefit from something that he did not experience in real time? Well, it happened to Anders' brother. Daniel was a Vikings kicker who you may recall biffed a chip shot overtime field goal against the Packers in a game that ended in a tie. And it was so bad early in the season, including that game, the Vikings cut him. Cut him. He went to Las Vegas and became an All-Pro. It takes some time. And in a way, that case is more useful and potentially more instructive for us because your brother did it. It's not like, okay, this happened in Green Bay before. Like, so what? Who cares? If you're Anders Carlson, that's not much of a comfort when you're struggling with your confidence. But if your brother, who has been through this exact same thing and came out the other side, a better player an all-pro who just in Vegas with Rich Bisaccia, and you like set a record for game-tying kicks, for distance on game time and on game-winning kicks, like that is about as good as evidence as any kicker could have that isn't themselves. Like if you didn't do it, but your brother did it, you could you could talk to him, text him, call him, and it's going to resonate with you in a way that it wouldn't if it were almost literally anybody else. Like maybe your dad, if your dad had done it. In this case, we're talking about, like football kicker, like it has to be a 1-to-1 comparison. Like if his mom was a great athlete, like there certainly would be some value in that, but they're the Carlson brothers. They're both kickers. And one of them went from inconsistent early in his career, had to change teams, and then became one of the best kickers in the league. If you're the brother, it becomes really easy to say, well, he did it. I'm as good as that guy. I can do this. And have your brother lift you up, give you tips, help buoy you. And I think the Packers continuing to have confidence in him, even as they bring in competition. And one of the reasons why we're bringing this up is yesterday at practice, we're talking about practice, not a game. He banged a 50-plus yarder that was supposed to be, the big kick. The team is yelling, they're dancing, they're squirting water, and he makes the kick. The other two kickers, they didn't. He made it and had a really good day at practice. He seems to be responding to bringing in, ironically, the former, at the very least coincidentally, I'm not sure if it's full irony, but the former Vikings kicker who was better last year than Anders Carlson was last year. And so you have a veteran who theoretically could just make the case, I'm better than you. I'm going to outperform you in training camp. And if you are the kind of person who is struggling with your confidence after one of the worst rookie kicker seasons we've ever seen, and that's just statistically a true thing. Like most kickers do not get the kind of runway in their rookie season to miss as many kicks as Anders did. They would just be cut. Because most teams don't build a team the way that the Packers did last year and commit to a youth movement the way that they did and include him. Like they viewed Anders Carlson the way you would view Dontavian Wicks or Carl Brooks or Lucas Van Ness, even. Like these, not on the same level. Lucas Van Ness is going to get far more opportunities to fail than Anders Carlson would. But they viewed them similarly. This was something we talked about last year. That he's in this mode of, we're betting on the youth and the potential. That's what the Packers are saying. We are going to develop this team. And I'm sure they would rather Carlson just win the job. Like, yes, it'd be nice to find a guy who's going to come in and just be awesome, but you'd rather that guy be the guy that you've drafted and developed. And that's good for your culture. That's good for your team. That's good for your front office. Especially if you're Brian Gutekunst, you want that to be the case. So far, and understanding, we are only talking about so far because we only have so far. So far, he has responded well. How will it look if in week 1 he misses a crucial kick? That's when this is going to get complicated. That's when the real test comes. But right now, the only tests he can pass are the offseason sleepy June time tests. But it's not nothing that he's doing that. If he weren't, it'd be time to be concerned. And you'd be going, okay, it's going to be, one of the veterans they brought in, or maybe it has to be someone else because it's not going to be this guy. Well, right now, it looks like he is responding well to the competition. Does that mean he's going to come in and be the kicker and be awesome and follow his brother to being an all-pro? No, it doesn't. But this is a positive step forward. We'll see if it lasts. And we're going to have some fun to finish up the show. There have been some comparisons to this team to the 2011 Packers. And just for fun, let's do it. We'll do it next. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at BetterHelp. Sometimes we all need the opportunity to get something off our chest. Big or small, certain things can really start to get to you. It's important to let that out, especially to someone who's unbiased in your life. So today I want to say how I really feel about something. You might even be thinking about the same thing this week. I think we're overhyping Dontavian Wicks a little bit. I think we're forgetting about how good Christian Watson was when he was healthy, both last year and when he was a rookie. I love Dontavian Wicks, but I think we're forgetting how good Christian Watson is and what the upside is there. Now, most of us have bigger problems than our favorite sports teams, and it's important to get things off your chest every once in a while. Therapy can be different for everyone. If you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be flexible and suited to your schedule. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon to get 10% off your first month. Visit BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. The 2011 Packers. The 2024 Packers. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today, here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. Okay, I saw this a couple times and felt like I needed to talk about it. I just wanted to have some fun and talk about it because it's, June. And it was the comparison of the 2011 Packers, not by quality, but by skills, by body type, by those kinds of things. And I did a little comparison on Twitter. I want to tweak it a little, but because I have the opportunity to hear it to have a little bit more nuance, we're going to do it a little differently here. The easiest one is Randall Cobb and Jayden Reed. Now, Jayden Reed is already a better player than Randall Cobb was as a rookie. Jayden Reed was a better rookie than Randall Cobb was as a rookie. So that's the one where you're going, okay, that guy's already better. Like, we know that. I don't know that any of the rest of these guys are going to be better this year than the player whose name I'm going to name was that year, or certainly was at the time. Like Donald Driver, the comparison by story, by body type, by trait, the story is Bo Melton, is the Donald Driver comparison. And like to the point that at the end of last year, you heard on the broadcast, people mentioning it. A little undersized, not a power program. Rutgers and Alcorn State, a little different, but late day 3 picks. The infectious play style where he's just like there's a verve to the way that they play, and part of that is because they were both really fast. Bo not in pass hands, and by the way, I bet Donald Driver is still really, really fast. But that's the comparison there. The other easy one for me is Jordy Nelson and Christian Watson. And it's easy to remember what Christian Watson was later in his career, but 2011 was his breakout campaign. 2010, we started to see it at the end of the year. But he was not a special player in 2010. In fact, by the end of 2010, we were going like, he was on kickoffs, and it was like, get this guy off kickoffs, because he would fumble the ball on kick returns. It wasn't until 2011 that we really saw that Giants game, then in the playoffs, the Steelers, the catch to open that game, the touchdown catch to open it. But it was 2011 that he jumped off, deep threat, and then became a more complete player. By the way, he had issues later in his career. 2012, hamstring injury, was hurt on and off all season. 2015, missed the whole year. So there's some easy comparisons there. And I mentioned this on Twitter the other day. It is hard to square, and I think we talked about this yesterday on the show. Romeo Doubs reminds me so much of James Jones. just like in terms of traits, in terms of what he brings, just like a savvy, cagey vet who's going to play above the physical tools. And I think Dobbs is actually more talented than James Jones was, but James Jones was just a gamer. Caught everything, tough as nails. That's not quite Romeo Dobbs, but Romeo Dobbs plays bigger than his size, no question about it. Clutch, touchdowns, like led the team in touchdowns despite not being, a super high volume target guy overall. And I think that's probably where his most likely career arc is like on a really good team. He's wide receiver 4, but if you need him to be, he can be wide receiver 2 or wide receiver 3. And that's where he is on this team. And then that leaves Greg Jennings and Dontavian Wicks. Now, it's not a one-to-one body type. I think Wicks, body-wise, more resembles someone like, and play style-wise, more resembles someone like Davante Adams, early, like proto Davante Adams. I'm not saying he can be the best receiver in the league. In fact, I just said during the ad read that I think we're maybe overrating what he can be relative to someone like Christian Watson, who I just think has more physical gifts. But the ability to win vertically, despite not being, a 4-3 guy, the ability to win as a route runner, underrated after the catch. And then Jermichael Finley was a more physically imposing player than Tucker Kraft or Luke Musgrave, but his skill set, his ability to win over the top, to create vertically, to create after the catch. The Packers have 2 tight ends really that can do that. So it's a fun comparison. And the Packers run game is just like light years ahead of that team. Now, Aaron Rodgers is the difference. In 2011, Aaron Rodgers played the greatest season of football I have ever seen a quarterback play. I've never seen a quarterback, in the regular season anyway, be more in control of a football game on a regular basis down into, I'm talking about 2007, Tom Brady. I'm talking about, any Peyton Manning season. Just because of what he could do, the way that he could bend physics, the way that he just seemed to toy with defenses. I've just never seen anything like it. Now, Jordan Love, he has some of that. There is certainly the play style stuff, the footwork stuff, the outside the pocket stuff, ability to make throws on the run, the special throws, the throws that no one else sees, the plays that no one else even thinks to make. That stuff is there. Now, is he Aaron Rodgers? No, not yet. But Aaron Rodgers wasn't Aaron Rodgers until 2011 either. We see proof of concept 2008, 2009. They win the Super Bowl in 2010, but even then, he's not being looked at even really as a top 10 quarterback. He had to go on Colin Cowherd and be like, do you believe me now? Basically. And then in 2011, he announced himself as one of the true superstars of our game. Well, you remove Jordan because I think the talent is there to do that. I think the offense, the infrastructure is in place for them to do that. But they got to go do it. They got to go do it. All right, more to come here this week on Locked On Packers as we head toward training camp, which 7-ish weeks away, 8 weeks away from training camp. So the real football is going to be back before you know it. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast wherever you get podcasts. Go subscribe over on our YouTube page and follow us on all the social medias. On Twitter, Locked On Packers. On TikTok, Locked On Packers. On Instagram, Locked On Packers. So you can stay Locked On Packers.